Welcome to the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Friday at 9 a.m. Career Coach Office Hours. I spend time twice a week talking with you about job search, hiring more effectively, managing, leading, resolving workplace related issues, a whole host of different things. And I do it very simply because I think people need help. You know, the skills needed to find a job are different than those needed to do a job. And in terms of management, leadership, hiring more effectively, these are things, or resolving workplace issues. Often these are things that people learn from the seat of their pants. By that I mean, no one trains you how to manage. You may have been the best person who did something, and suddenly you're a lead, then you're a manager, and there's no formal training. You kind of do it ad hoc. So I try to resolve some questions that people have. The Friday show focuses on hiring more effectively, managing leadership, and resolving certain workplace issues. I also take questions through chat about job search. So if you have a question, by all means, put it into chat, no matter which of those territories it's in. Tuesday, and I think I may move the show to like 9:30 a.m. I haven't decided, but it'll wind up being on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook with a new time if I make that change. Fundamentally, it doesn't look like LinkedIn. Oh, it is connected. I'm sorry. So I'll simply say that if I make the change, it'll show up in the scheduling that I do over the weekend for the Tuesday show. But I may be moving it to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Now, before I go into Q&A, I received a very interesting email from the World Economic Forum, and they were referencing a McKinsey study about the top 10 tech trends that are going to shape the coming decade. I thought I would share that with you because I just think it's useful for everyone to know what the people doing the research are thinking about the future. It may help you shape or craft your training and your career development. So hang in there while I do this. I'm going to not read this summary here. I'm just going to give you a synopsis and say the first area is process automation and visualization. And the article starts off by saying about half of all existing work activities could be automated in the next few decades as next level process automation and virtualization becomes more common. There's going to be 50 billion devices connected to the industrial Internet of Things. There's going to be a lot of opportunities in this area. Number two, the future of connectivity, powered by 5G and the Internet of Things, opening up a lot of economic activity based upon faster connections in mobility, healthcare, manufacturing, and retail. Number three, distributed infrastructure. By 2022, next year, 70% of companies will be using a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud platform as a part of a distributed IT infrastructure. It will mean data and processing can be handled in the cloud but made accessible to devices faster. Number four, next generation computing. It's going to help us find answers to problems that have been science and society have struggled with for years. So it includes a host of far-reaching developments from quantum AI to fully autonomous vehicles. I still find it amazing that vehicles are going to be fully autonomous in my lifetime. Applied artificial intelligence is number five. Now, this is relatively early, but by 2024, McKinsey estimates AI-generated speech will be behind more than 50% of people's interactions with computers. Get that one. Six, the future of programming is going to be software 2.0, where neural networks and machine learning write code and create new software. The trend makes possible rapid scaling and diffusion of new data-rich AI-driven applications. Number seven, trust architecture. 8.5 billion data records were compromised in 2019. And despite advances in cyber, criminals continue to redouble their efforts, and thus trust architecture will help in the fight against cybercrime. This is going to be a huge thing. So, you know, part of this is going to be the blockchain. So just be aware that this is going to be a huge part of what's moving ahead. Number 8, the bio-revolution. A confluence of advances in biological science that promises a significant impact on economies and affect industries from health and agriculture to consumer goods, energy, and materials. It's going to be powered by AI, automation, and DNA sequencing. Amazing stuff. Number 9, next generation materials. Developments in materials science have the potential to transform multiple market sectors, including pharma, energy, transportation, health, semiconductors, and manufacturing. The materials include things like graphene, which is a single layer of carbon atoms arranged in a honeycomb lattice configuration, which is around 200 times stronger than steel. Incredible stuff. Number 10, clean technologies, renewables, cleaner, greener transport, energy efficient buildings, and sustainable water consumption are at the heart of green technology. So these are things to explore and investigate for yourself based upon interests and where you see possibilities for yourself. So use this as an opening salvo in research for yourself and for looking ahead. Now, here are my questions for today. I have 2, 4, 7 questions today. The first one is, how do online business people hire talent if they don't know about online freelance marketplaces? And implied in the question is, they're dopes, because online freelance marketplaces are where they should be hiring people. Well, there's many places that you can hire people from, and not just simply freelance marketplaces. You know, people tend to be fairly provincial in their behavior, and the questioner has that provincial behavior. And I have to also say that people who don't know about these marketplaces also have that. But sometimes people get referrals, people who are known to employees, and thus the recommendations carry value. So the fact that someone doesn't know about these marketplaces doesn't make them stupid, doesn't make them incompetent. They just may not know and prefer to get recommendations from people instead of going to a marketplace. Marketplaces have their own issues. And I know I've hired people through the freelancer exchanges, and some have been very good and some haven't been. So just recognize that there's no one right way of doing things. Everything works, and they will have their flaws. Question number 2. We hired a junior developer who's not used to teamwork, so he gets angry to the point of raising his voice when his opinions are confronted by the team. He also seems to have a hard time listening to more experienced developers. What do you do? Well, the first thing is I talk to the more experienced people on the team, because they're not explaining it in a way to this person where she or he gets it. I don't know the gender, so it could be either one. Oh, I'm sorry, it is a he. Also, I talk to the developer, and I'm assuming this is not a one-time occurrence, and suggest to him that perhaps he has something to learn from the others, and he should listen first and explode after he's had a chance to think about it. These are people who have done this many times before, and he hasn't. And thus, perhaps he should listen first, and they can do a better job, perhaps, of explaining. And you've spoken to them or will be speaking to them about it. But raising his voice isn't really useful. All it does is harden both positions, and there's no opportunity for listening. If he wants to be listened to, he has to communicate differently and explain why his ideas are better. And by yelling, which is how I'm interpreting raising his voice to be, he's not going to get his way. He's like a petulant child throwing a tantrum. Is that the way he wants to be seen? I presume not. He'll throw daggers at the other parties. Say, hey, look, I think you have a lot of potential. I also think you have a lot to learn. Listen first, ask questions, do things collaboratively rather than my way or you're a dope. That's the way he's coming across. So you have to talk to both sides. And for the other people, other than this junior developer, they have to teach as they explain their ideas, because this guy doesn't see things their way. He may not know, and this is a teaching opportunity. So that's the way I would talk. I would handle the situation. What tips have you tried for motivating employees? So I always start off with the idea of, why do you need to motivate someone? There's a coach I took training with named Lance Secretan, and he talks about the difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation is the need to light a fire underneath someone. Inspiration is lighting a fire within someone. You want to hire inspired people, not people that you need to motivate. So there's two parts to this. Let's assume they were inspired when you hired them, and the institution has created sufficient friction that they're frustrated and they now need to have a fire lit within them, underneath them again. I start off by talking with them about where the friction is institutionally that's getting them frustrated, because that's really what's going on, is frustration that's causing them to shut down and to not give your best effort. So you want to have an open conversation and see what's resolvable. And the inspiration from, and the other question is, if they never were inspired to do good work and they seem good enough at the time you hire them, and only you know what the real circumstances are, then you have to learn how to hire better. You need to get clear about what you want and get better training at how to evaluate and assess people. So that's the way I approach this. You don't want to be hiring people that you have to motivate. You want to hire people who are inspired to do great work, who care about what they do, right? Otherwise, you got more work on your hands because they need fires lit under them and all the while. All the time. And the problem with that is that's work for you. Eventually they build asbestos butts and just don't listen anymore, right? So don't put yourself in that position. Learn to interview and assess people better, do a better job in the evaluation process, and that includes with your team as well, so that in this way, there's an opportunity for them to, shall we say, you have an opportunity to hire a better class of person than maybe what you've been doing in recent times. Let's go to the next question. What should sales leaders discuss during one-on-one encounters with their team members? Well, I'm a big believer in resolving friction, in case you haven't looked at that. So I want to listen to what they're doing, what they've done well. So I invite them to tell me that. And number two, what they could do better, what they think they could do better. I also want to have them measure against performance criteria. As I'm assuming that when you hire them or going into the year, you establish performance criteria upon which they agreed. How are they doing against those performance criteria? Oh, it's been so much worse than I could have expected. Maybe there's skills development they need to have. How are they doing in relationship with their clients, both internally and externally? Interview some of them so you walk in with information. Who's their best client? Call them. Simply say, I'm so-and-so's manager. We're about to do a performance review. I'm curious, how are they doing with you? What do you like about working with them? Where can they do a little bit better and make you happier? And we're not talking about an opportunity to say lower prices. They're not involved with that. That's with us at headquarters. But what do you like about working with them? What do they do well? Where could they do a little bit better? Listen and use that as teaching for them. So those are a couple of things that you might do. But it always starts off with, what do they think they did well? Where do they think they could do better? You concurring with that or offering your insights. And then from there, talking with them in effect about giving them a 360 review based upon what you've looked at. When recruiting into management positions, does the senior manager recruit those who are like them in many respects? Is the like attracts like something to take into account when analyzing the moral integrity of a business? Folks, this person really used that phrase, moral integrity of a business. So I'm going to start with that phrase, which indicates to me you don't know what you're talking about. You're throwing around a BS expression as though it has real meaning. Moral integrity of a business. Now, unless you're recruiting for the clergy or for a religious order, moral integrity of the business is pretty dramatic language to basically say they have to fit my standards of moral turpitude. You don't have that responsibility. So let me go to the like attracts like, something to take into account. Yes, and also I want different opinions. I want disagreement. I want people who can stand up to me and tell me things I don't want to necessarily hear, but need to hear, that are important to me. So people will generally hire people who are like them. But and that's how racial bias occurs, gender bias. A bunch of old white people hire older white people. Women find it exclusionary to them. I could go on and on with how bias expresses itself in the workplace. I encourage senior managers to widen the scope of their search, and if anything, select the person who is least like them and not treat them like a pariah once they're on board. I know for myself, there was a time earlier in my life where I was involved with a nonprofit and I was on a leadership track with them. And they asked me to choose a mentor to work with me. And I was tempted to pick one person in particular who was very much like me as I was at that time. But then I picked someone completely opposite, and that made a huge difference in my life and in my development. Always consider the opposite personality type, the opposite style. If you're an extrovert, go for introverts. Go for a couple of introverts on your team because they're going to be more measured in their assessment. They may frustrate you at times. That's a good thing because you're not always right, are you? So be in the position where you examine all, but also remember knowledge is important. This person needs to be able to solve your problem. And unless they can do that, the personality is completely irrelevant. They have to have skills and experiences that meet the needs that you have. Let's see now. What is the best way to lead? Leading from front or leading from behind? What are some examples? Okay, so leadership versus management. And managing, often you need to be out front because there's a performance issue or a delivery issue that needs to be addressed, and you have to be on it. Now, you can lead from behind, but you have to be prepared to intervene with regularity because in the manager's role, you have a delivery responsibility and you're close to the people who are working on that. As such, for managers, it really is about leading from the front and, in effect, saying, "Follow me, troops," and cheering people on to join you. On the other hand, for real leadership, the people who the managers report to, often what's best is leading from behind and playing a coaching role with everyone. Doing the sort of questioning that I do in my practice, where I invite people to examine different thoughts that they have and periodically interject mine without saying, you have to follow what I do. It's all about helping people think things out so that they can learn and grow. And that becomes the way you manage from behind. It's coaching them to better performance. As of now, this is the last question. What are the benefits in meeting the key staff when booking a huge event? Okay. Well, they're key staff, and there's going to be accountability from them for delivering what it is that they're contractually bound to deliver. Who else would you meet with? The waiters, the busboys? You may do that the day of the event to kind of cheer them on, but they really don't care about you. They care about their boss. So their boss is the one who they're accountable to, and their boss is someone that is accountable to you as well. So the reason to meet with them is to be clear about what's expected and finding out how you can communicate with them day of event so that if there is a problem, it's handled quickly, it doesn't impact the event itself, and everyone can be thrilled. So that's why you meet with the key people when booking an event. I hope you found this helpful. I'm Jeff Altman. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a lot there in the blog that'll help you. In addition, you can schedule time for coaching with me or schedule time for a free discovery call. I'd love to help you. Connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. By the way, at my website, thebiggamehunter.us, there's a drop down that'll take you to my courses. And you can order my courses that will help you in a variety of ways professionally. And I have a number of books on Amazon, including The Ultimate Job Interview Framework and The Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions that will help you in your job search. I hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.